Hello, my name is Lizzie, and this is Lizzie's Literary Life, and today we are going to figure out, using a bracket, what my best book of 2023 was. So, Ruby from Ruby Red made this awesome bracket where you put in, how she set it up was you put in your favorite book from each month, and then it whittles that down to the winner. But I had some months where I read a lot of great books and some months where I did not. But I actually had exactly 12 5 stars this year. So I just put in my 12 5 stars in the order that I read them, but then in those months, if that makes sense. But then they're in a random order. That's what you need to know. And I'm going to screen record, and we are going to figure out together what my best book is. I have an idea of what it might be between like two, but we'll see. This might be tricky. So let me get my screen recording up. Here's my bracket. I put the books all on there, but I haven't really looked at what's matched up against what. So we're going to start at the bottom left and go around this way. So first up we have, can I zoom in? Yeah. We have Kim Ji-young, born 1982, versus Little Blue Encyclopedia for Vivian. So Kim Ji-young, born 1982, is about a woman in South Korea and what women in South Korea face. It was a really powerful book in that it incorporated all of these nonfiction data points into this fictional story to show what it's like being a woman in South Korea. Little Blue Encyclopedia for Vivian is hard to describe. It's about a relationship. It's about this, I can't even remember all the details, but it's about this relationship and this woman that died. And it's written as an encyclopedia of the characters and events in a fictional TV show. It was really weird, but I liked it a lot. So I'm actually going to give this to Little Blue Encyclopedia. So that is our first matchup. We have Little Blue Encyclopedia comes out on top. Up next, Rebecca versus Briefly a Delicious Life. Rebecca is a classic about a woman who marries this rich guy and goes to live in his great manor house, but his late wife is kind of haunting her there a little bit. Briefly a Delicious Life is about a ghost who she's a 14-year-old ghost who lives in this monastery where Chopin and George Sand and George Sand's two kids come and live for a winter. And I'm going to give this to Briefly a Delicious Life. I did love Rebecca. I think it's one of the best classics I've read recently, but I just loved Briefly a Delicious Life. I thought it was just excellent and beautiful and wonderful. Up next, we have What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu versus Wandering Souls by Cecile Penn. What My Bones Know is a nonfiction memoir about the author's journey coming to terms with and healing from her complex PTSD. And Wandering Souls is a story about Vietnamese refugees and a family that attempts to come to leave Vietnam. And Wandering Souls made me sob. So I'm going to give it to Wandering Souls because that was just so much for me, if that makes sense. It just was intense in a beautiful, wonderful way. Well, My Bones Know was great, but it didn't have the same emotional impact on me that Wandering Souls did. Okay, up next we have Anne of Green Gables, which is the only reread on this list, versus Pod. Anne of Green Gables is about, you know the story probably. Anne is an orphan. She gets taken in by brother and sister Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, and she starts to live at Green Gables, and it's about her childhood there. And it's beautiful. It's so fun. I love it. But I have read it before. Pod is from the perspective of dolphins, and it is just a wonderful little underwater tale. I'm going to give it to Pod, because Pod I just have talked about so much. I also feel like I can't give my best book of the year to a reread. That doesn't really make sense. If I had had another 5-star, I would have taken Anne of Green Gables out, but since I had 12 5-stars including that, so Pod definitely wins the day there. I loved Pod, and I have like pushed it on everyone, and not everyone has liked it, but I have pushed it on them. Up next, we have They're Going to Love You versus To Be Taught If Fortunate. Okay. They're Going to Love You is a book about ballet and queerness and this author's journey towards and away from ballet and with her family and her life. And it was beautiful. It like really hit me in my childhood ballerina soul. I think the ways it talked about dance were really beautiful and really powerful, and I just loved it. To Be Taught If Fortunate is a sci-fi that I also loved at the time, but since then I've recommended it to a couple different people, and them liking it less has made me like it less. I don't know. I did love that book. I think it's a complicated one, and yeah, it's a novella about a space mission. I think it's beautiful, but I am going to give it to They're Going to Love You, because that book just hit me right in the soul. Okay, and then lastly, we have Memphis by Tara M. Stringfellow versus I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This is tough. These are two that are pretty much on par, I think. Memphis was one of the Women's Prize books that I read. Was not shortlisted, but I did read it from the long list. It's about a family, intergenerational story of a family of Black women in Memphis and their lives and etc. And I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was excellent. I'm Glad My Mom Died is Jeanette McCurdy's memoir. I thought this was also excellent. I think it was so refreshing and unique in terms of memoirs because of the tone that it took and the way that she just unapologetically talked about how it was for her as a child. It was so honest about what she was feeling at the time. I think I'm going to give it to I'm Glad My Mom Died, actually, because I loved Memphis, but I'm Glad My Mom Died is one I've recommended to more people. So we're going to go with that. And then the next round, let's go back around. We have Briefly a Delicious Life versus Little Blue Encyclopedia for Vivian. This is going to go to Briefly a Delicious Life. Little Blue Encyclopedia, I loved it. It is kind of too weird to be an absolute favorite. It's too weird to recommend to a lot of people. I did love it. And I would love to read it again, actually. And I think it's a masterful craft. But Briefly a Delicious Life was just delicious. Like, it was just so good. So I'm going to go with Briefly a Delicious Life for that one. I think it's shaping up to be exactly the ones at the end that I thought would be there, and I still don't know what's going to end up winning. Let me put it right there. And then we have Wandering Souls versus Pod, 2 Women's Prize books. This is tough because I did love both of these. I think I'm going to have to go with Pod just because of the experience that Pod was. Like, Wandering Souls was sad and it made me cry and it was great. But Pod just was like nothing like anything I've read before. And that, I think, is really special. And then we have They're Going to Love You versus I'm Glad My Mom Died. We got to go They're Going to Love You. This is exactly the 3 that I thought would be here at the end. And I have no idea. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, I really have no idea. Like, I think... Wow. I think it's really between Briefly a Delicious Life and They're Going to Love You. Pod is excellent. I don't think it's quite there on that level. They're both about like art in such beautiful ways and queerness in such beautiful ways. They're kind of similar books. They're not, but they kind of are. I want to reread both of them, and I actually own both of them. I bought both of them after I had read them because I loved them so much. They're Going to Love You, I actually bought full price. Briefly Delicious Life I found at a used bookstore. Maybe that's an indication that I should go with They're Going to Love You, but also, I think we're going Briefly a Delicious Life. Oh, I don't know if that feels right. Let me put it in the middle and see if it feels right, and then put the other one in the middle and see if it feels right. Does that feel right? I don't know. Does this feel right? I think it's going to be Briefly a Delicious Life. I think that felt right. That felt right. Make it a little bit bigger for the final winner. Oof. But oof. And there we have it, my best book of the year. My best book of 2023 was a close race. Briefly a Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. If you have not read this book, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I actually created my D&D character after the main character in Briefly a Delicious Life, so that's something. Let me show the whole bracket. Ooh, beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love this bracket. I think that's gorgeous. And I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with Battle. Briefly a Delicious Life as my top fave. That was my shelf this pick in March. And not everyone liked it as much as I did, but it was just like really a perfect book for me. And I think of it so fondly, and I'm so excited to reread it. Wow. So there's my top 12, my top 6, and my top 3. But I loved all these books. Let me know in the comments what your best book of 2023 was, and if you have read or are interested in reading any of these books. I'm going to stop my screen recording. And I just love books. I love books. So that's a good thing. And I will see you in the next one coming soon. Bye.